kumwana yeah, zvakaoma. Sorry guys. Hey, murungoona kuti manetero andakaita haasi manetero akanaka. Hakusi kuneta kwakanaka kwandakaita, but kuneta asi hakusi kuneta kwakanaka guys. Kuneta chaiko chaiko. Let's hope all of you guys are well. This is Friday. We are like in winter again today. So cold. This is England for you. It was warm yesterday, and the other day I had no shirt. I was just putting on my vests. But today, look, I'm looking for a jumper and a woolen hat, and that means I'm freezing. This is England for you. At msama pakati pesama unogona nguruwa nechando kunosunowa. That's England for you. Anyway, today I need to I need to dedicate this presentation to the remuneration of prison, to the remuneration of civil servants. Shandai Baba Rugare Rimberi, thank you for this effort. Mkoma Temba, thank you so much. Atete Ashley Miambo. Ziri kufamba ere. I didn't want to come live tonight. It's Friday, Good Friday. Iri Friday, Mkoma Godfrey, Ziri say, Msharugwa, Nagasimba, Iron Led, welcome. I didn't want to come live on Facebook, but I still feel that as Friday, I wanted to take a bit of rest, but something just cropped up in my mind to say, look, we are just a few weeks away from elections, and you have seen shenanigans, ZANU-PF shenanigans. They brought their people and fielded them as double candidates for 𝗕𝗵𝗃𝗶. The ZANU-PF does not allow double candidates in their part. We had this guy, Mtonori, who is former military intelligence department boss, and Nofara, Mkomamrisenda Kasimba, Mambuida Masquera, say, Rangarise, Sabata Rajesu, Rangaragatapira, Sabata, and Sanaska, we are live, but there are quite a number of people waiting for this live. So, like yesterday, I said, guys, let's suggest to see what we can, topics that you feel are very important as we march towards 2023 general election next month. I can safely say next month because we are already in July. And then we have got a few weeks to go into this election. As I've always stated, that the only political party in our country that is scared of this election is ZANU-PF. ZANU-PF has never been scared like this. Yesterday I gave you a brief history. Yesterday was 29 June. I came with a brief history of Zimbabwe. I spoke a lot about elections in our country. And I spoke a lot about 1980, a general election which was won by ZANU-PF, 85, won by ZANU-PF, 85, 90, won by ZANU-PF. And if you check those results, their fortune was winning, as their fortune was fading, in fact, as we marched towards 2000. In 2000, we eventually defeated ZANU-PF, but it refused to hand over power. In 2002, Mugabe was defeated and refused to hand over power. In 2005, Mugabe, the same happened. 2008, the results are clear. Mugabe lost that election, and the ZANU-PF refused to hand over power. That is the election that I exposed election rigging in 2008, and then I fled the country to the United Kingdom. So if you look at the history of Zimbabwe elections, in everything that ZANU-PF was doing, Mkoma Simbarashe really say, Charles, so if you look at the history of all these elections, ZANU-PF has been utilizing the security forces and the civil servants, including teachers, soldiers, prison officers. These were people who, police officers, these are people who participate in this election. When they want to pick up election monitors or election officers, they pick up from the civil servants. ZANU-PF has got a belief that all civil servants must support ZANU-PF. And they've got a belief that all teachers, every civil servant, uniformed force members and so forth, they are all members of ZANU-PF because of a criteria that they've been using to recruit into these forces. So they think if they recruit using that criteria and they continue to underpay these people and they expect these people to remain loyal to a political party that forms a government which underpays them. That's something that I've always said. ZANU-PF is not earnest on its own. ZANU-PF should look at this as a way of getting in power illegally. Because, to be honest with you guys, ZANU-PF does not understand that these people, they are underpaying. At one stage, there will be fathers. At the other stage, there will be elder people who want to retire and live comfortably in a retirement home. Unfortunately, the current ZANU-PF government cannot allow that to happen. I always come here and talk about the civil servants, talk about particularly the uniformed forces, because these are people who are easily used by ZANU-PF to wage a war or a battle with the citizens of a country. Every time the citizens want to demonstrate, they are not allowed to demonstrate by ZANU-PF. And the ZANU-PF will send those uniformed forces to hammer or to shoot and kill them. As a result, the civilian quota will be so scared of the army, so scared of the police. Is independent. Yeah, a lot of ZANU-PF people were disgruntled and they wanted to contest as independent. Unfortunately, they are being followed by the FAS, that is CIO wing, which is eliminating them one by one. If you look at the death of Mtono, it is similar to the death of Amos Smith. It is similar to the death of Chindori Chininga. Chindori Chininga wanted to say something about mining, where diamonds were looted, gold was looted, and so forth. That resulted in him getting involved in an accident, a bogus accident, an unexplained accident that claimed his life. And today, Chindori Chininga is nowhere to be seen. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why you see I was writing today that, look, I think this is the reason why probably I was born 2 weeks late, because I didn't want to leave my mom's womb. It's like I had an insight to say, look, where I am going from my mom's womb into the world, this is a very cruel world. And even the even pandakazvarwa, so vakataura mbuya nyamukuta when I was finally kicked out of my mom's womb, apa munenge mazvara a freedom fighter, you understand? So I was like, oh hell no. I've been trying to get back there ever since, going back to where I came from, in my mother's womb, because we live in a cruel world. This world is the one that that make us regret being born. You know, when I was born, if I had this verbal development as an infant, I think I was supposed to have give a compliment back to this Mbuya, because day one on earth, I discovered how cruel this world is. Day one on earth, I discovered how cruel the world was. As I grew up, according to my mom, she was telling me that, look, this lad, Mbuya, was always telling me, mwana wenyu yuko is a big boy, and your son is a fighter. You see, now I'm tempted to believe what she was saying, because ever since I came to this world, from day one, I've been fighting. I came with clenched fists. I had no open palms. That means I came ready to fight. Very few people are born with their hands like this. Every child is born with a clenched fist. It shows something. It shows you are born into a cruel world where you need to survive by fighting. So this is why I've been fighting all along to make sure that the Zimbabweans have a very beautiful life. What I wanted to believe is, after we fight, we must live harmoniously in our country. Because there is nowhere we can return or we can go back to where we were. So attributions of being attributions that were, or compliments that were given by Nyamkuta, wakandibata, with this boy is a big boy and is a fighter. I'm now believing it. That was not a mistake. That was not a slip of the tongue. But I've seen all my life that I've lived in a negative force, or somewhere where you always fight to try and save the world, to try and save other people. So what I'm saying is, I've seen all this under remuneration of the civil servants. I was part of the civil service. Being born in a poor family, I thought probably by the age of 30, I will say goodbye to poverty and start getting into somewhere where you work. Unfortunately, the civil service does not allow that. This is where there is political segregation. Zimbabwe, when I look at Zimbabwe, I look at Zimbabwe in a similar way as apartheid South Africa. I know people will disagree with me, because when we say apartheid, it is simply a word that means separation. So in South Africa, they separated South Africans due to color. They said these are blacks, these are colors, these are white people. So they are different places to live. If you go to South Africa, go to Cape Town, compare it with Joburg, you can tell that in Joburg, unowana zvimashandy towns, zvakada sana Soweto. This is where black people used to live. Kana unala Yeoville, unala Joburg, this is where you find colored people used to live. Because in the town, Nana Cape Town, not right. This is a white people dominated area. So the word apartheid during that time, it meant separation. It was a system of legal race segregation enforced by the National Party in South Africa. So when you come to Zimbabwe, we had a similar government before Ian Smith. Before Ian Smith and his colonial past were in our country. So if you look at the colonialism of Zimbabwe, did I miss a lot? No, you did. I didn't. You didn't miss a lot. I've just started. I think I just did 10 minutes in that tanga. I didn't want to come live, but something pushed me to say, look, let me look at how our uniformed forces are struggling, how our civil servants in Zimbabwe are struggling, and why are they struggling, and what are the causes of their struggle. So I'm looking at Zimbabwe, comparing it to apartheid South Africa, where people in South Africa were divided or separated on races. One of what word apartheid 𝗨𝗶𝗃𝗃 word apartheid. It simply means separation, or just separate. This is what the word apartheid means. So if you go to South Africa, you can tell that South Africans were separated according to the race. There were blacks, there were colors, there were white people, which was about 3 races in South Africa. So if you went to Zimbabwe, if you have been to Zimbabwe, to Rhodesia before it was named Zimbabwe, you can tell that the country was also in an apartheid system. You go to Arcadia, you see colors. But why to kind of Zuma? There you meet black people. Kind of kunana high fields, you meet black people. And ndoko my industries. If you look at how Harare is planned, vaku north, south, east, eastern side ndoko ave madhewedewe unobuda zuva ndokuna na Borodeo, vana Mandara, vanani, vana Kamfinsa, vana 𝗕𝗶𝗃𝗃, vana Helensville. They are all from the eastern side. Pasenda pehara, pasenda pavene town center. Ndopane uchingoti bude, uchingoti pinde, uchingoti vei pakamfinsa upinda 𝗕𝗶𝗃𝗃, upinda paNgrimpaya utopinda mtown. Kabva much-𝗕𝗶𝗃𝗃 woenda paNewlands utopinda mtown. Uri kubva ku-eastern side kana uchienda kuma locations kunogara vanhu vatema. On the middle there is Harare city, and then western side ndokaunoona kune atete Ellen Lovawayo. Western side ndokaunosvika unoona ma high density suburbs. Before you get to the western side, usati wasvika kunana Kambuzuma, usati wasvika kunana Highfields, kunana Western kuya Glenora, usati waenda iko kuya uchingoti bude mtown wakutopinda ma-industries. Uchingoti vei ma-industries wakupinda mu high density suburb. This is how Harare was set up, so that utsi wamaona weturuka uya wainopinda mu location wana vachirwara. This is why you see death rate yekunana Borodeo was very low compared to the death rate yekunana Kambuzuma kweko. Even the way we were pegged, magara tatakagara zvezvokuti munomanikidzana, ukatopinda unoona kuti pano palocation pamunovakwa imba 10 dzepalocation paivakwa 1 imba yepaBorodeo. So varungu, they had vast land in that country. So this is how Zimbabwe or Rhodesia was segregated, or was put in an apartheid system. Nkoma ndiriora maswera babati zviri kufamba here. Saka ndati nini, I'm comparing Zimbabwe manhero akanaka mukoma weli zviri kufamba here. I'm comparing Zimbabwe neSouth Africa. Kuti the system yamuri kuona yainzi apartheid system. I've stated here the definition of apartheid, that it simply means separation. And the way Zimbabwe was separated in reference to Harare. And that's the same way Joburg is built. That's the same way Cape Town is built, Pretoria is built. They separated in that area. Warlord, Fred. They separated those areas. So if you look at Zimbabwe, the road to Zimbabwe is not an easy road. I'm going to briefly tell you the road to Zimbabwe from Rhodesia. Zimbabwe is a country that was named before a person known as Cecil Rhodes. Rhodes, the leader, the pioneer column. zviri sei mukoma Philip, General Kaemba, zviri kufamba here. Cecil Rhodes formed an agreement with the paakauya muZimbabwe. By then, this was not named Zimbabwe. There was no country known as Zimbabwe. There was no country known as Rhodesia. But these were creations of the British during the scramble for Africa. As Mawaya Mdara, watching you from Ukraine. Thanks, Nkomareja. So this was a creation of the British, Kutiti Zimbabwe. And that creation, it emanated from a system which we all know, known as the Scramble for Africa. Cecil John Rhodes, he came to the northern part of, he was moving central, looking in search of Fumi, Anopama British. He wanted to appease Queen Elizabeth during that time. So Cecil Rhodes, he formed an agreement with the Shona people who were native in the area that is known as Zimbabwe today. I'm sorry for asking this, Mkoma. Which phone are you using? I'm using the same phone, Perana 466. I receive my calls when I'm live on Facebook. Saka ndenge chingoverenga chete my messages babatiti. So you look at what happened now. The natives of the area you call Zimbabwe today, they were Shona people, and Cecil Rhodes made some agreements with them. What he wanted to do was to do mining, to do exploration of mining. He wanted to mine their land in search of gold. That was in 1888. In 1888, this is when Cecil Rhodes came, looking to mine our land. He was in search of gold. No, that about the history. So there is something interesting in this history. Then Rhodes received a charter to form a British South African company. Yainzi BSAP. No, yakazongeyane mapurisa yainzi BSAP police. BSAP police. No, vamunonzi vakanosunga mbuya nehanda, vakahenga mbuya nehanda. Saka Rhodes, he obtained a charter, or he received a charter to form the British South African company. That British South African company in 1889, it came to settle to the north of South Africa. Its aim was to settle the north of South Africa because they were exploring for minerals and land. What they wanted, Babunu, vaida goridi, vaida ufumi. Nonzwana General Kaemba, nozanu wachichema uti, goridi redu rakazara ku Reserve Bank yeku England. Goridi re harina kungouya rega. They were explorers who were to explore for that gold in Africa, Southern Africa, northern part of South Africa, to make sure that they dig that gold. But for them, they needed a charter which allowed them or permitted them to form the BSAP. So after forming the BSAP, Rhodes settled. Rhodes settled in this northern part of Southern Africa or South Africa, and he named that part Rhodesia. It was through Cecil John Rhodes who formed a country during the scramble of Africa and named that country Rhodesia. It is probably or perhaps the only country in Africa that was named before a person. Other countries, Zambia, Malawi. Malawi, I know what it means. I don't know what Zambia means. If anyone knows, please let me know. But Malawi, it means early in the morning. They call it Maravi, and because the British could not pronounce Malawi, then they call it Malawi. That is a country used to be known as Nyasaland, and because of the Nyasa people and the Nyasa with the water, Nyasaland, the waterland, or it was named Nyasaland by the British. Then later on they changed it to ainambochinjwa yakachinjwa. Zambia ndo yakazochinjwa from Northern Rhodesia to Zambia. Ndo inonzi nguva ya Rhodes. Ndo inonzi nguva ya Rhodes yoya. This is where our problems emanated from. Because after that, after Rhodes formed Rhodesia, then the country that you now live, you named Zimbabwe, it was named Southern Rhodesia. Because the Rhodes explored further into Zambia. Zambia yanga in different territories. Very few people today would understand that Zambia is not a one state. It is a federal country. It's a federal country. Very few people knows that. But through reading, through knowing history of SADC, I've learned to know, or I've known that Zambia, the country you call Zambia, Aisinika one, Inika two, three, about 2 to 3 countries which were combined to form one country today known as Zambia. So it's a federal country. Just like on Nigeria, Zambia is a federal country. Losaka wachiona mazambians wachiti ku eastern side kwe Zambia kwekwe avaonane nevanhu vanobva ku western side or northern part of Zambia, because there are about 3 countries which were combined together to form one country, and it was done by Cecil Rhodes to make sure that they form one Zambia. This is why you see Kaunda used to say one Zambia, one nation, one nation, one Zambia. This is how they were like kubatanidza vanhu ivavo kuti vabatane vaite chinhu one mazambians. Dai pasina izvozvo ingadai nanhasi kune civil war yekuti vanhu vari kuti isusu toda independence yedu. And they are different from the Mtwakazi people who are trying to form a caliphate. It doesn't work like that. But Zambia was totally divided until it became one nation, one Zambia. This is Kaunda who said one nation, one Zambia, after the British combined all those states into one country. Zambia got its name from the Zambezi River, exactly. All right, yeah, I didn't know that. That is because of the Zambezi River. This is where they got. So it's stronger for river, maybe. I don't know. So what they did is, when they explored further north, when Rhodes explored further north, he created Northern Rhodesia. So they were, when it became a federal country in the central southern Africa, there were 3 countries which were combined together: Nyasaland, Rhodesia, northern and southern Rhodesia. So Rhodesia, rakabva pana Rhodes, exactly. Cecil John Rhodes, senemu yake kuti Rhodes ya ndo pakabva Rhodesia. So it is the only country in southern Africa, or I mean in Africa as a whole, the only country which was named before a person. It became someone's personal property. You understand? That territory became someone's personal property. It was the only country named Northern and Southern Rhodesia. It was one country, but it was named before a human being, a person. Animal. So that settlement brought a lot of settlers further into the into this territory, and further up that settlement. So Rhodes began to implement taxes in the Shona people. Because kuti pazovakwa Salisbury, vakanga vasina mari yekuvaka Salisbury. What did they do? They started implementing tax. Saka the Shona, they fought against that. Ndo nya hondo yamuri kuona yaizonzi hondo dzana Chimurenga, hondo dzana Chaminuka, hondo dzana Mbuya Nanda. Yana Chaminuka yanga iri mandevele before Rhodes came. Yana Chaminuka yanga iri between Shonas and Develes, or the Marauders, or let me call them Marauders. During that time, Develes had no nonsense. Those guys are warriors. When was those years? Around 1889, This is when these countries were the Rhodesians were formed. So in 1888 ndo Rhodes pakapuwa masimba charter yekufoma BSAC. Saka you find kuti today vafana vachindevele varipo ava vanokwata vafana mandevele chaiwo. During that time they were warriors. Those guys were fighters. Ndaiti when we were growing up taiudzwa kunzi ukaenda kumatebheleland vakomana veko havatambe vanokubaya nebanga and ukanetsa nemudhera yekudzangisa kugwaza nen'amu baba ngugwaza nen'amu akubaya sure because ka-fearless karimo mandevele. Vafana vaapa vari kuzviti mandevele vanagaritwa lava ndakataurira gale kana hausi mundere the Zulus havakwati zvaunoita zvigare zvokuti ngonzi hey wakutotiza. Vafana varipo it's very difficult to call them Ndeveles because if you read the history of Ndeveles, when they left Chaka coming to the northern part where the Shonas were natives there, these guys were fighters and they were conquerors. The Ndeveles were fighters and conquerors. Aiwa Bejunese as a guy vaibaya wakomana vacho and vachitora. So they saw those Shona natives who were residing in those areas, they were so weak. Vangosvika and run over a chief vototora mombe nevakadzi vakanaka. Saka chiti ukaenda kumatebheleland ini ndakagara kwaMutare, ndakagara kuBulawayo, masvingo kwa haana kuzonyatsokusvika kumasvingo, but ukaenda kunana Karoyi haumbofokaona vakadzi vakanaka sevakadzi vari kumatebheleland. Believe me, vakadzi vakanaka. Ukaenda kunana Karoyi kunana Manikaland vaone vakadzi vakanaka. Bulawayo ne vakadzi vakanaka. Kunana matebheleland akuna vakadzi vakanaka. Vakadzi vakanaka kuZimbabwe kana uchida kuvaona unenge wakuenda area dzana Rushinga nana Mount Darwin bozi unenge wakupinda kuMozambique. MaPortuguese paakauya vakapenda area yese yakapendwa. Kune makaradi kako kapinda kuMozambique pamusha sonoona pane munhu ane bvudzi rosvika mukaradi ane manga uri kutarisa unoti hey amai ava amai makanaka asi amuzonzwana nechi pakutaura vanenge vachitaura Portuguese. So the Ndebele people were like warriors. So I'm Zimbabwe, Zimbabweans and warriors, because those guys were warriors. So vanhu vaiita nezvei by those years mukoma. Vanhu vairima. Zvavaiita makore iwayo, vanhu vaigara under machiefs. Vanga vasikagare under one nation. Yamunonzi munhu Mutapa empire. Munhu Mutapa empire aitoexpanda empire yake achirova mamwe madzimambo achivaita incorporate into his empire. Saka during that time vanhu vairima. Vanga vasingarime chibage bozi kwakusati kwane chibage. Chibage chakabva kuMexico nevarungu ichi. It's not an indigenous plant chibage. Itori exotic plant yakatouya kubva kunana Mexico vachireplace vairima rapoko vachirima amena rapoko ndozviyo ndozvairimwa kudhara vanhu vachisa matura vachiita sadza rekudzvura. Ndosaka vachiona tine maduri tine maguyo ekuya nzungu nekudzvura vanhu vachibika chisadza icho chiya chenenge. But pakazoya chibage vakaona kuti chiri 2 months kune kainzi kaikambeuka yeka kamunhu guys ndaukanganwa makore ndabva kumusha kainzi ka 2 months kainzi kune kambeu kainzi ka 2 months here like kuti waiti ukadyara so within 2 months chatoibva chatooma andiri. Saka vanhu they quickly adopted maize meal. Tatisina chibage. Chibage is foreign in Zimbabwe. It's foreign because kunana America vaishandisa animal feed. So when they discovered kuti Southern Africa kunogarika zvakanaka, kune good weather, mvura, everything, so vakaona iri a nice place for animal rearing. So they brought that plant yechibage kuti chiuye chireplace vana rapoko because waita 6 months rapoko iri mumunda, but chibage 2 months chatoibva makutodzvura makutodya sadza. Saka you find kuti it was easier. Saka vanhu vaigara madzimambo vanhu vaigara under madzimambo, vana chief mutema, vana sekuru vedu, vana mutema vachibva kunana South Africa vachipinda munana Zimbabwe. Ndakasimba mukoma Francis zviri sei. So you find that when Rhodes came, disbanded that system of governance yaitwa kudhara yekuti munogara under madzimambo. Rhodes disbanded that system. Ndobva afoma BSAC, British South African Company, which came and introduced tax. Vanhu vaifana kubhadhara tax. BSA yaibhadhara tax. So the Shona people vakanga varimo vakatanga kumukira varungu kuti no hazvingaita vanambuya nanda. Ndosaka muri kuona vanambuya nanda vakunzi vairwisana nemabhunu chi. Nyaya vairwisana nemabhunu vairamba kubhadhara tax. Andimona vakaramba kubhadhara tax. Ndosaka muri kuona vanambuya nanda vakazohengwa and so forth, but they didn't want to pay tax. So they were, unfortunately, in 1897, these people, the Shona people were defeated. They were overcome by the white people. Saka no mistake yakaitwa iyo. Ndosaka ndikutaura kuti maproblems atinawo nhasi haana kutanga nhasi, akatanga kudhara. Saka ivo vachena chinangwa chavo chachisiri chekugara zvachose. They didn't want to live. Problem yaana Cecil Rhodes, right? Historically, varutaura kuti Cecil Rhodes anga ne health yanga isiri poor, akazvarwa kuBritain. So he went in search of good weather as well. Aitsvaka kwekugara kunodziya, anga asina utano hwakanaka. This is why he fell in love with South Africa. Ndobva akugara kuSouth Africa. Saka he was exploring further, but anga asati apuwa masimba naQueen Elizabeth. Queen Victoria, I think by that time was Queen Victoria, I think. Ndoba akazopuwa masimba charter ya yakazomboda aite explore further, vazofoma BSA company. That BSA company payakasvika yakabva yaita disband zveumambo, mbozi yakarowana navo ikavakunda in 1897. Then vakaintroduce government yavo. Vaintroduce government yavo ndobva vatanga kurowa tax, maifana kubhadhara tax. Saka vanambuya nanda vakazviramba zve vakamukira mabhunu, but pfumo nepfuti zvakaramba kushanda. Mandevele atoti mawarriors vakambozama pfumo nepfuti baba vachiti 𝗓𝗏𝗶𝗄 zvakaramba kushanda svika Mandevele apera kufa, maShona apera kufa, vamwe vakabatwa, vamwe vacho vakadimburwa musoro. Ndiyo musoro yamuri kunzwa iri kutaurwa, iri kuchemwa nana Mnangagwa kunzi misoro yanambuya nanda iri kupi? Iri kuBritain, kureva kuno ndokutaura kuti kune misoro yavo mene kumuseum yavanotaura. I don't know. I've been kune imwe museum kuLondon kundichibvunza, but handina kuzviona. Ameno they know better. Maybe vane marecords ekuziva kuti musoro wani newani newani wakatakurwa ukaenda kupi. They know better. Because kudhara kwacho mamashipa aingosingaka. Mune mashipa akasinga akawandisa sereke munana Indian Ocean. Vanhu vaiuya vachinyura. Saka pakakatakura musoro yanambuya nanda pomwe akanyura. Kana asina unyura iriko kuno, kana isiko kuno ameno kuti iri kupi. Nobody knows. Hazvisi documented, hazvisi properly documented. Izvinhu zvinongoitwa passed on from generation to generation kuti zoziva izvozvo. So all of Rhodes was under complete control of the all of Rhodesia. Rhodesia yese, northern and southern Rhodesia, it was yakatanga kuitwa conquered iRhodesia ino yeZimbabwe. Ndo yanga ya under control ye BSA company. So the initial government ye BSA company, it included about 7 officials and 7 settlers. By 1914, the settlers held a majority of seats. And vaenda vachikura vachintroduce government. Varungu vakagara vari advanced already, the issues of governance in their country. Kauya kuno ku UK unoona building yakavakwa 1600, 1400, 1200. Some of buildings were built before Jesus Christ was born in this country. So they had knowledge of forming a government. And saka by 1914 vakanga vane majority controlling all of Rhodesia. Isusu atatoruza control, because once you are defeated in a war, you've lost power. If you lose power, then you see that the BSA charter yavakapiwa na Queen during that time, it expired in 1923. it left Southern Rhodesia with the two choices. One, to become a province of South Africa. Two, to become a self-governing British colony. Saka, they were given charter, form a BSA company, vakakwidza kwekwe vakacreata nyika yavo, vakaiti this country is Rhodesia. But unfortunately, that charter expired in 1923. Because already these people had established a government in our country. After that, they had an option now. Could either Rhodesia becomes province of South Africa, or else it becomes a colony on its own. And it becomes a colony and run by the British and more. So the settlers, they choose self-governing. They said, okay, that's fine. Let's go under Britain. Then we become a British colony. And they were awarded responsibility of a government. They became a government. They became a government. Saka ma options aripo. Saka mchora chitika ku South Africa. Ma South Africans avafane kutrova. But if they understand our history, South Africans should not kill Zimbabweans. Because we are part of South Africa. We were one and the same people. Understand? So the kutaura kwatikuita kunoku ingadai tiri under South African government. Tichotongwana na Ramaphosa. Tichotongwana mazichka na Ramaphosa. But varungu vakanga vaona building ichakamira. Exactly. Kunoko akamira. 1699 buildings, you find them here. Akamira. Nishaita one day and check out which one is the oldest British building, so that I can go there and show you. Mama buildings arimuno makamira. Akavakwa kudhara. And more. Saka you find with the ikadai isu a province of South Africa. But varungu vane zvavakaona kuti Rhodesia kakarika nyika kakakabatana. One, it is probably the only African country with the distinctive 4 seasons. I know kuti vanogona vatadzawo zviziva izvozvo kuti Zimbabwe is the only SADC country with the distinctive 4 seasons. When it's summer in Zimbabwe, it's summer. When it's autumn in Zimbabwe. When it's winter in Zimbabwe. When it's spring, it's spring. So summer, autumn, winter, spring. All those 4 seasons in Zimbabwe, you can distinguish them. This is the advantage that our country has got. And secondly, our country is at the center of SADC. Being at the center of SADC, it means for Mozambicans to go to Namibia, the shortest route is through Zimbabwe. For people in Botswana to go to Malawi, the shortest route probably is through Zimbabwe. For Angolans to go to probably Mozambique, the shortest route is through Zimbabwe. For South Africa to trade with Northern Africa, the shortest route, even air or route, is through Zimbabwe. So it became a strategic position of the SADC economy. We have got the least paid civil servants in Zimbabwe. Munangagwa kudherera vanhu. Ndokunonzi kudherera vanhu. Zvekuti ma civil servants edu unfortunately vanhu vamwe vokuti tinongoti takapusa vakomana. Takapusa. Because we are the least paid. But we benefit from SADC economically. We benefit from SADC economically. We are the hub of SADC economy. But surprisingly, we have got the weakest currency. We have got the poorest paid civil servants, which should not be like that. So you see, the settler government, it dealt with the land segregation. It dealt with segregated governance. It dealt with the political and economic privileges for the white settler community. This is where we have a problem today. The settlers, they focused on utilizing Rhodesia or Southern Rhodesia's land for its agricultural potential, I have stated here that Zimbabwe in SADC, it is the only country with the 4 distinctive seasons. You can tell that this is summer in Zimbabwe. You can tell that this is winter in Zimbabwe. If you go to South Africa, you're not going to differentiate winter and summer and spring. You're going to kutonhora. Zvafana ku England kuno. England can have 4 seasons in a day. When I woke up in the morning, it was very warm. It was warm outside. Masikati kwatanga kunaya. Kwanaya. Manerana yako akutonhora. Ndakutotsvaga jacket, juice, ndakutopfeka juice. So England does not have 4 distinctive seasons. Vanongodimbura havo kuti mwedzi wakati nemwedzi wakati winter, mwedzi wakati nemwedzi wakati summer. But winter can come summer. You understand? So Zimbabwe, that doesn't happen in Zimbabwe. That doesn't happen. We've got 4 distinctive seasons. So that gives Zimbabwe agriculture, that gave Zimbabwe potential for agricultural development. Because we have got minerals as well. And that's true, 𝗕𝗵𝗃𝗶𝗶 and Cape Town to eat mazizins per day. Yes. This is why Zimbabwe is like the haven of Africa. Because that is ukaenda kunana Sudan, as you go kana kumsorogo, kunopisa zvekuti you can only have 2 seasons sometimes. Kunogona kushaya season yemvura unogona kuishaya. Kunogona kupisa saka kune zvimagwenga zvazvo. Kunopisa zvekupisa zvazvo. Kukatonhora kunotonhora zvekutonhora zvazvo. But muZimbabwe kana kwatonhora kunotonhora. Kana kwakudziya kudziya, kana kuchinaya kunaya, kana tapinda muspring, you love Zimbabwe. You love that country. You love it. And Varungu, they saw the advantage of it. That Rhodesia land, it was there was an advantage. There was an advantage when they looked at our land, when they looked at mineral resources. This is why they focused on mining. They focused on utilizing the land for agriculture because of those 4 seasons. MuZimbabwe ukarima chibage, kana chaoma chibage chatooma, akuchanayi motochikohwa. We always carry jackets in summer here in Queenstown, South Africa. Yes, that's the problem with some other countries. Ukaenda kuMozambique uko kunopisa zvekupisa zvazvo. Zvekuti summer newinter unogona kutadza kuzvidifferentiate Mozambique. When it's summer in Mozambique, kuti ufambe panzapa baba, unotambura. And kune mazinyoka emusama mazinyoka anowanikwa kuMozambique. Ndo nyika yandakaona ine nyoka dzoti pese pawafamba inyoka. KuZimbabwe, you rarely find that. So you find that the settlers now, they focused on utilizing Southern Africa's land, Southern Rhodesia's land for agriculture and for the potential for agriculture and the mineral resources. This is what made Zimbabwe unique. They focused on that because we have got 4 seasons, distinctive seasons in our country. So their biggest issue was learning how to govern a racially diverse colony. Zimbabwe became a racially diverse colony. Altete Mozambique kunopisa mgo, kunopisa kuya. Unonzo wakunopinda mtete uri kunana chakara kuno. Unoona kune black soil. Kune zvimba zvimwe zvinofunga kuti munogara vanhu here kuMozambique. Kune ivhu rakanema rinotsvedza kana rere. But auritsiki kana kwakupisa Mozambique. Kuti ngara. That country inopisa Mozambique. Inopisa. Saka aina 4 distinctive seasons foot as compared to Zimbabwe. Saka you find now with the problem yakaitika kuma-British is how to govern nyika yakaita seZimbabwe yaive a racially diverse colony. They had to deal with the relations between the Shona and the 𝗕ndebele and the settlers. Zimbabwe yanga yakuti aya mashona nezoro ndaitaura namudhara twala akaya panapa is a 𝗕ndebele guy. As makakusvika sure. Yeah, I know. So you see ndaitaura naTwala ndikatwala problem yamunayo, especially vanhu vematebeleland, the Ndebele people. If they look at munhu wekumanikaland, munhu wekumashonaland, nemunhu wekumasvingo, the Ndebele people, they can't differentiate these people. Makaranga namanyika vanhu iva havaonani. Hatred yavo yakangofanana nemudhevele nemashona acho. Vanhu vekumanyika havadi makaranga. Vanhu vekumazezuru havadi vanhu vekumanikaland, havadi. Ukatonzwa vachitaura munhu wekumanikaland, these tribes, Karanga, Ndebele and Shona, so Karanga, Manyika and Mazezuru. Ndebele people classify them all as Shona people. But these people have atoonane food. Manyika akauya kumazezuru vanofane kuseka mazezuru. Kuseka kuti inzwai kutaura kuita manyika. Vanofane kuseka kuti unosekwa. Amanyika vandonyara kutaura kana vari kumazezuru. Muzezuru akabva kana mukorekore, makorekore anongonzi mazezuru. Akabva una namashonaland akaenda kumanikaland, unonyarara pane vanhu vechimanyika. Because ukada kutaura, zvakafanana nepandinombotaura panapa ndichitaura chizezuru kana ndichitaura chizezuru. Vanhu vazhinji vemanyika vanouya kuinbox kwangu, unonzwa vazhinji vanzi uri kutuka, uri kunyadzisa. Bosi kazhinji kacho ozati hampalo ya mama. Uruona, you cannot say that kumanyika. Kuenda kumanikaland, ndaigara ndakarohwa muromo nasekuru. Kamwenda chedu kati hawa mama, kagunwa wa mama. Wazati muromo bo. Kutaura to mama chii, ozozvotuka unonyadzisa kuno. Andiriona. Saka you find kuti zvino create a tension. So Zimbabwe was a racially diverse colony, which was very difficult to govern, especially for the British people. Then Britain created, after that, they created a Rhodesia cow, they created a Central African Federation in 1953. Central African Federation yaisanganira Southern Rhodesia, which you call Zimbabwe today, Northern Rhodesia, which you call Zambia, and the Nyasaland yamunodaidza muchiti Malawi. Ndogara nchinetsana nevanhu vazhinji vachiti usi muZimbabweni iwewe, hakuna muZimbabweni anonzi Yuda. Ndikati, if I take you to Malawi today, you will be shocked. Shona people who are resident in Malawi, vanogara mumaruzevha kuMalawi, vane mapurazi vamwe vane mabusiness, who are Malawians, because they moved during this federation. You didn't require a passport for you to go to Zambia, for you to go to Malawi. No. Waingonogara pa unoda ukada utenga imba kuZambia ogara. Kada utenga imba kuMalawi wangonotenga imba pakunakidza kugara kwaigara during federation. This Central African Federation was formed in 1953. And more. So Zambia and Malawi later they got their independence. I think in 1963, after 10 years or so, it's independent. But the British or the white settlers, they knew the potential, the agricultural potential, the natural resource potential of Southern Rhodesia. So the federation, it broke up. Zambia got independence. Malawi got independence. And the Malawi went under Kamuzu Banda. Zambia went under Kenneth Kaunda. So the federation was formed to further economic benefits of that region, the SADC region. And they wanted to minimize conflict. But that federation benefited Zimbabwe more than Malawi, benefited Zimbabwe more than Zambia. The federation. So the federation fell apart due to political turmoil. This is where you find the British government, they surrendered, they said no. Isusu atine nechekuita. Imimi, both Britain yakati, Zambia, Northern Rhodesia, has gained independence. It's now called Zambia. Nyasaland has gained independence and it's now called Malawi. Why can't Southern Rhodesia gain independence? This is Britain, the British government. So you find Ian Smith became a prime minister of that country in 1964 after he refused to let Southern Rhodesia become Zimbabwe, become an independent country. So he tried to negotiate for independence from the Britain, because he said, we are not going to let this country being run by a black man, never in 1,000 years. So Britain would not give them control of Rhodesia. Yakaramba Britain. They said, unless you assure us that the government would work towards shifting to majority rule. Why that in this history is important for people to understand. You will find the ZANU-PF when they are campaigning in their rallies. They tell you that, look, we fought with the British. No, they did not fight with the British. The British was against Ian Smith government. They were against Ian Smith regime. Because when Smith tried to negotiate with the British to have independence for Rhodesia, Rhodesia to become an independent country from 𝗕𝗶𝗃𝗀𝗀𝗀 Southern Rhodesia to only Rhodesia. The British vakaramba. Vakavati, if you agree here, we sign. Could you work towards shifting this country to majority rule? And the majority rule is the black man. Bamara, this say, Boy Johnson. So, Smith agaramba. Then he went on to declare what he called unilateral declaration of independence, popularly known as UDI today. This was done in 1965. Muswa 11 November 1965. Ndo paka Smith 11 November 1965. Akabva ataura kuti akana. Imimi kana mataura kuti tipe vanhu vatema nyika. Nyika ine 4 distinctive seasons. In a natural resources like this. In an arable land. Then Britain would to surrender this country to the black majority. Smith akabva nada kuramba pachiputukezi. Then he declared unilateral declaration of independence. That means he had totally nothing to do with the British government. Mubati, very important ipapo. That in 1965, on the 11th of November, Smith declared unilateral declaration of independence. Removed Chizita chekuti Southern Rhodesia into Rhodesia. And the British were not happy. The British told him, you can only do that, Smith, if you promise us, or if we make a declaration, then you sign. That your government will work towards the majority rule. Because Zambia is a majority rule. Malawi now is a majority rule. So the new Rhodesian government that was formed by Ian Smith, it stripped black people of their rights. Vanhu vatema takabvatanzi hamuna kodzero munyika iyoyo. If you look at what is happening today in ZANU-PF government, they went for Lancaster House talks and they went into an election and formed a government. What happened to the black majority rule and the government is that ZANU-PF formed. ZANU-PF, it stripped black people their rights. Why I'm saying that? If today the prison officers varikunzi uyane chitupa uye neslip yako kuti uchavhotera kupi. Vada kuitiswa ballot voting yekuti unenge uchinzi vhotera apa vakakutarisa. So hakuna marights muZimbabwe ekuvhota, ekuchuza munhu wanoda kuti aite representative yako. You are forced, you are told who to vote. That is exactly what Ian Smith did. He stripped blacks of their rights. That is exactly what ZANU-PF government did. It stripped black Zimbabweans of their rights. Avasina chavasiyana na Ian Smith. Nusaka mawana, we wrote to say dead to Ian Smith. Kuti town zamakasiya dzine magetsi akuchina magetsi. Matauna amakasiya kune mvura akusina mvura. Matauna amakasiya kune road akusina road. Zvipatara zvamakavaka wana Harare Central zvave nemushonga nemadhoktors manesi akuchina. Manesi apera kutiza, machiremba akuchina. Saka, if we look at what Smith had done for that country and what ZANU-PF government did to that country, we call Smith a saint, an innocent man. So, what Smith did, it angered the British government. Britain initially tried peaceful negotiations with Ian Smith following his declaration of independence. Smith did not budge to the British demands, and he stood by his word that nothing will change in Rhodesia. What did the British do? The British placed economic sanctions against Ian Smith regime, and eventually they placed an embargo on all goods. And so nothing was supposed to be exported from Rhodesia or imported from somewhere into Rhodesia. These were not targeted sanctions. These were total sanctions. This was an embargo on the goods, which makes the targeted sanctions we have in Zimbabwe today different from those that were placed against Ian Smith. Ian Smith was told, "Gold rako ari kutengeseka. Isusu redu gold ro tengeseka. I don't know why they are smuggling it, because they want to make money. We can sell gold. We can sell platinum. Chinese are there selling platinum. Goods are coming into Zimbabwe. Goods are being exported into Zimbabwe. If you come to England, you go to my supermarkets kwedu. Unaona peas maruva zvakanzi made in Zimbabwe. A lot of things that are coming from Zimbabwe being sold to Britain. That means we don't have an embargo on all goods. No. We are not under economic sanctions, but we are under targeted sanctions. Nevertheless, I am one of the proponents to say those sanctions must be removed, because they are serving no purpose. They are serving no purpose. The targeted sanctions are serving no purpose for our country. But if you look at Smith's sanctions, these were economical sanctions which were put first, and eventually there was an embargo on all goods in and out of Southern Africa. Smith asingachabvumirwe trade, Smith. Because my British, they were against his declaration of independence. So if any war veteran comes to you and say, we were fighting the British government, or we were fighting with the British, tell him, don't lie. Don't lie. You never fought the British, but you were fighting Ian Smith and his government. The British government had placed economic sanctions and embargoes on all goods in and out of Southern Africa, Zimbabwe. So there were no sanctions. Today, if people talk about fighting the British, tell them that's nonsense. Because most of the people who fight the British, Nana Chwenga, he can't read and write. History and Rukuzai, haizive. Take all those war veterans, put them in a wapekana exam paper grade 7. You know I made the grade 7 is. I was zero. They don't know that. So tell them, don't lie to us. don't lie. ZANU-PF don't lie to Zimbabweans. Never lie to Zimbabweans. Because Smith realized that negotiations were necessary. Time change, guys. Reached an agreement with the internal black leaders in 1978. Arowa my economical sanctions, Smith. Arowa ma embargo ekuti auchina chaunobvumirwa kutengesa kana goridhe kana changa chisingabude munyika. Smith ndopa akaona right ndaiswa pakona nevanhu ndoita sei. Because if you look at that, hondo ndo mazuva airohwa hondo pakarohwa Smith ma sanctions. Saka Smith angasichabvumirwa kuimpota kana nyere dzekurwisa zvombo zvasikakwanisa kupinda muSouth Africa, muZimbabwe, because anga under sanctions. Saka anga angoshandisa zvombo zvaanga anazvo zvichipera, nyere dzaanga nadzo zvichipera, zvimahelicopter zvaanga nazvo zvakupera. Saka ndopakachiona Smith akati alright, ndaiswa pakona nemasanctions, ndoita sei. Ndopakabva abvuma Smith kuti let's have negotiations. But he did these negotiations with the internal black leaders in 1978. Right. Nosaka mwana ndaitaurira munhu akataura mbuya Monica Mutsvangwa vaya vari kuti vakaenda kuhondo vane 14.5 years. Igore ripi iroro? Because patakasvika 1978 papa ne internal settlement yakaitwa nema black leaders. That internal settlement ensured that people secured the protection of white political and economic interests. Multiracial elections akabva aitwa 1979. Guys, don't get confused. Ndodati munyatsobata zvandiri kutaurira ipanapa. Ndo nhoroondo yeZimbabwe. Kuti 1979 kwakaitwa multiracial elections akaitwa. Civil war had been occurring throughout the 70s and still did not cease. Hondo yakaramba ichirwiwa. Britain negotiated for a ceasefire and set up new elections in 1980. Murukunzo. 1979 kwakaitwa ma-elections akaitwa kuti kwakafomwa nyika. I want you guys to understand. Makafomwa nyika yanzi Zimbabwe Rhodesia. It's another country yakafomwa. Zimbabwe did not come straight from Rhodesia to Zimbabwe. No. After 1979 elections, there was a government formed yana Bishop Abel Tendeka Mzoreo. Ndobva nyika yainzi Zimbabwe Rhodesia during that time. After that, my British ndopa vakabva vati no, this is not good. Because hondo haina kumira. Vana Mugabe vakazviramba izvi. Futi dzikaramba dzichirira musango. Ndopakanyatsoروhwa hondo manje. Ukazwa munhu aitaura kuti akarohwa ma79 paipai. Ndopakanyatsorohwa. Dzakanyatsoputika pfuti my boss Smith akanga zvombo zvakaka his arms supply yanga yashoma nenyaya yema-sanctions. Smith was weakened by British sanctions. So British sanctions helped ZANU-PF, propped up ZANU-PF. The British government propped up ZANU-PF. That same government is the same government we have today. The conservatives. Yana Margaret Thatcher, that was the government which was in power during that time. They propped up ZANU-PF. They supported ZANU-PF. They weakened Ian Smith through sanctions and propped up ZANU-PF. Usaka ukanzwa vachitanzi tine hondo nemaBritish vari kunyepa. Yanga isiri hondo nemaBritish, yanga iri hondo naSmith, an individual. So after that, civil war had occurred throughout those 70s, and it did not cease because there were elections in 1979 which saw that country being changed to Zimbabwe Rhodesia. But the British said, okay, fine, since this war can't stop, let's go down and sit. They negotiated for another election which was held in February 1980. So that election which were held in February 1980, they are the elections that brought ZANU-PF into power. And yesterday I spoke about 86 because the parliament had 106, 20 were reserved for white people. 80 seats were contested. Mugabe got 57 seats and formed a government. This is when Zimbabweans realized independence and say April 1980 became a recognized Independence Day. Mugabe became a prime minister. So Dindo, Canaan Banana, became president. But he was ceremonial. All the powers were within Mugabe. So what happened now then? Smith is gone. We had a well-remunerated civil service. Our dollar was probably, it was the strongest currency in the world. Zimbabwe, or Rhodesia, or Zimbabwe at that time, had the strongest currency in the world. Today we talk about SADC. We had the strongest currency in the world. One Zimbabwe dollar was equivalent to 2 British dollars, 2-point-something British dollars, British pounds. So that time, Zimbabwe government introduced by Mugabe, it lacked experience. There were a lot of people, uneducated people. When I'm in Jurongo, I'm a grade 7 now. They became ministers. When minister Mugabe, the rest are kind of grade 7. Imagine Joyce Mjuru at 23 or 24 years became a minister and had no grade 7. Saga Tagaita government which lacked knowledge. And guys not gonna experience in anything. Wajinja wana mboita kana masabuku. Manamnanga gwa wakabvaita ma minister papa. Minister of State, responsible for internal security. And guess what? He kept the Rhodesians, CIOs, Wana Ken Flower, Wana Rudland, Wana Macmillan now. They became, it was 82 cents equivalent to a pound. Yes. Thanks, Charo. That means we had probably the strongest currency in the world. 82 cents equivalent to a pound during that time. So, if we were fighting the British, don't lie. Because Zimbabweans need this truth to set us free. So, today now, where are we? Coming from 82 cents per pound, where are we? 1 pound now is about 1.5 million RTGs or 2 million RTGs. At some point you should talk about SARS. I recently learned about them and it baffles that we have such Zimbabwe. I love that side of Zimbabwe in the hidden stuff. And engage. I spoke about SARS, I think 3 or so days ago. Yeah, I had a presentation about SARS. And one of the SARS, Wanda Ziva, and I Shelton Marerwa, who eventually died. Ndakaitaura nyaya SARS sere. Ndakaitaura nyaya dzokunana kaBrit, kunana Krembon 2 Brigade, kunana Nkomo. We discussed that a lot. Anyway, I'll dedicate one presentation about it. I will have a look on YouTube. Thank you. As cool as we had the cabinet that had the highest number of PhD. Definitely. I'm not saying the rest, no. We had my PhD. Wana Dr. Joshua Nkomo, Wanani, Mayone my PhD. But Mbombera Shinji, Mbombera, Wana Solomon Mjuru, Wana Joyce Mjuru, Mbombera, Wana Tunga Mirai, Wana Boss Wajiji Wacho Odwapwa, we had my parastatals, my uniformed forces, Wana Tunga Mirai, Wana Mjuru, my general, Ngwa Zache Zozo, police kwa nani gonda, Mkura Jija, I can't remember who was heading the police that time. Most of them, Wangwasana na grade 7. Wangwasana na chavanacho. they lacked experience. And more. Muroya bva pane muroya dongorera Leonard Masamba sawi urise njakufonera nhasi aada kusua kuti munyendo wako urise munyendo bwanji munyendo anzi ndapinda mukoma sikumbuzo zviri kufamba. Saka you find kuti madoctorate vaivepo akawanda, but mbombera, because unoziva kuti iwe kana uri 1 une doctorate degree uchitungamirira munhu asina kana grade 7, basa rinorohwa pasi hariro kumusoro, pasa panorohwa pasi. Dai madoctorate degree aiwe pasi apa kumusoro koshaya munhu ane doctorate zvaifamba, mbozi aingonopota vachimufidha, but sakasimbisa kudenga pasi apa papasina chiripo. We had inexperience, we had uneducated people, a lot of things that happened soon after war. And immoral. So, if you look at now, ZANU-PF was gradually introducing apartheid in our country. ZANU-PF and the South African apartheid government, they are the same. Otherwise, South African apartheid government ikatenge better. Bozi vaibuda pachena kuti havakudei, vaipfurai pachena masikati mumatauni. Amaona zvakaitwa musi wa 1 August uya 2018 ndozvaiitika kuSouth Africa izvozvi. Kuti masoja anongodeploywa nepfuti vachipinda mutauni vachingopfura vanhu vari kuzvifambira. Innocent civilians died in South Africa. In a similar style, innocent civilians died in Zimbabwe. So, remember when I started this presentation, I said, the word apartheid, musade kuritora se word rinonetsa straight. The word apartheid simply means separateness. Because South Africa was separated in a similar way Rhodesia was separated. In a similar way today Zimbabwe is separated. Because if you go to Zimbabwe today, when a Borodeo, hakuna street kid wanoona nemba uBorodeo. Varungu vagara vari kuBorodeo nedzimba dzavo nanhasi variko. Ukaenda kuAcadia kune makaradhi, nanhasi makaradhiwo arimo. Ukaenda kuHighfields hauone murungu kufira achigara kwekwe. So we are still racially segregated. And we are politically separated. So we have got an apartheid regime masquerading as a democratic government. And more. So if you look at the South African apartheid regime, it was introduced by National Party government, 𝗕𝗵𝗃𝗶𝗿. And that racial segregation in South Africa, it was based on color. And it was also based on police. And it was introduced in South Africa following the general election of 1948 in South Africa. New legislation in South Africa classified the inhabitants, people, into racial groups. Blacks, white, colored, and Indians. Ukaenda ku Zimbabwe, ukaenda ku 𝗕𝗶𝗃𝗃, you can see Indians. I know a few people would understand this. That is, Zimbabwe is the inhabitants of Zimbabwe. They are classified into racial groups. 𝗕𝗶𝗃𝗃, area 𝗕𝗶𝗃𝗃 yese area yema Indians ye. Ukaona kune munhu mutema probably nhasi, but kwakusingagari vanhu vatema, kwakusingagari varungu. 𝗕𝗶𝗃𝗃 mamusingagari varungu, maigara ma-Indians. Ukaenda kuBorodeo, you rarely found Indians there. You will see the British, the white people there. White ukaenda kuna na Acadia, you rarely find a black man there. Waona wazukuru, 𝗕𝗵𝗃𝗃, 𝗕𝗵𝗃𝗃, ndo wawaiona kwekwe. Wana majidi, ndo wawaiona kuya. Awaiwana muIndia, muningikine muAcadia. Kuona muIndia, kuona munhu mutema muAcadia, zvaiyera zvazvo. But white ukaenda kuHighfields, kuti uone muIndia kuHighfields zvairema. Kuti uone murungu kuHighfields, nambva namboona murungu kufiyo. Agara kufiyo stereka nambona murungu. So Zimbabwe and the apartheid South Africa governments or regimes are the same. So you see, those residential areas, they were segregated by means of forced removals as well. Baba, waiti ukapinda, waiti ezvinezvi ukuona haukwanisi kuvaka dzimba una borodhi, vanokudhirizira. With doctors Mbako, Mbengwegi, Chidzero, Mtumbuka, Usheo Kunze Makoni, Shamyarira, Zhobo, Shava, even my permanent secretary, PhDs, not Ananiki and Nasa. But there were very few. There were very few during that time. There were very few. Very interesting presentation. Thank you. We are learning. Saka, you will find that today, even in Zimbabwe, South Africa, citizenship, were being stripped of citizenship. People were being forced to belong to a certain tribal government. And one actually strip of my citizenship. Similarly to Zimbabwe. Wakana mtemo wakaiswa anonzi wakaiswa maimanjo chibhiri wakaisa chachi. You'll be stripped of your citizen. You won't be allowed to vote nechibhiri chachi. Kunzanzi wataura washora hurumende, watsoropodza hurumende. Ukaona hurumende inochika kutsoropodzwa zvimbozvibvunza. Why is this government a fear? Why does this government fear to be criticized? It's because they have got an apartheid system in place in Zimbabwe. If you look at even education, energy, we are segregated in poverty. Kana une mari, kana usina mari hauna mari. The poor getting poorest, the rich getting richer. Kuna na Prince Edward kuya. You could hardly see mwana aibva kulocation aenda Prince Edward. Kuna na Oreo, zvazvo zvikoro zvevarungu. And urugona. Saka on educational system, we are still segregated in our country. On the medical care system, we are segregated. Those in government today, vakaita sana Chiwenga wewe, haarapwe muZimbabwe. Why? He prefers to go to China. They prefer to go kunana Senegal, kunonzi Singapore kunorapwa. Akanzwa zina nodzurwa ikoko. Akada magrazi kukweshwa kana akada kana akada kugadzwa skin, kana nzwara yakarwadza ndokwira jet ndege. Kunoonekwa kunzi chiguno charwadza sei. They are not even medically attended in our country. Because they have led that, they have destroyed the health system. So other public services, munana Zimbabwe mwemwe today, hapana chakambochinja. Ukada kuenda kune mamwe office unonzi tipo kana usina hauna, you are not going to be saved. So those black people in Zimbabwe that are still found to be inferior. Imbo zvandiri kutaura zvoendai kuZimbabwe. Takaita crisis yesugar. Kuma 2007, 2006, 7, 8, 9. MuZimbabwe maive ne crisis yesugar. Sugar yanga isichawanike muZimbabwe. Imbondibvunzai kana kuti ndimbokubvunzai kuti pamakaona queue muZimbabwe yaive queue ine varungu kunzi vari kuforera sugar ndepapi. That shows black people are still regarded as inferior in their country. Hapana pawakafamba wana murungu ari pa queue yechingwa. Hapana pawakafamba wana murungu ari pa queue yesugar kana queue yemafuta. Waingoona black people chete. Pachinzi kwaukei kwabuda mafuta vanobva kutm kwabuda chingwa vanoti people were queuing for salt. In those queues magarira ndakaita muZimbabwe andinabva ndamboona pane a white person in those queues. That means Zimbabwe's regime is just as good as South African apartheid regime. As I've stated here, that apartheid simply means separateness. We are still separated in that country. So, urikuona zvaitika during apartheid. Maiti mukada kuenda kunoprotesta. Maroerwa amaitwa nemapurisa. Look at it. There are still videos on internet. South Africans being butchered by the police, being shot at by the army. Exactly what is happening in our country. You are not allowed munyika medu kuprotest. Ukango protesta mafa. Azvina kusiyana ne-apartheid regime. Saka, if you look at, if South Africans were divided into racial categories, Zimbabwe is still divided into racial categories. Saka ndabvunza, guys, imimi pamuri imimi, patakaita 𝗕𝗿𝗃𝗃𝗀, wakambona murungu here? Hapana. Wakambona mukaradhi here? Hapana. Waingona vanhu vatema chete. Varungu vanga vasingamweti here? Vanga vasingadyi chingwa mudzimba dzavo. Wai vanga vasingauye kuzotenga chingwa kwatiri? Wai vanga vasingawanike maqueue ataiwanika ekutenga mafuta? Saka you will find that Zimbabweans, this regime yana yeZANU-PF is still discriminating Zimbabweans against color, against poverty, against anything. This is a state policy that you see today. As my neighbor White used to give us what he had brought like sugar. It is, he used to say, regardless of your color, you are also human. Exactly. And you, that white person, you will never see that white person aripa 𝗕𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗀 and sugar. After that was chased out by ZANU-PF. So you find that ZANU-PF created an apartheid system in our country, which is still working here. Mapurisa nemagajeri nemasoja vanenge vachiwedzerwa tsvimbo nembwa dzekukwatura vanhu kana vari vachida kudemonstrate. But ivo kavabvunza salary yavo, how much are you earning? They're earning zeros. And if you look at what is happening now, we've got a lot of Zimbabweans, black Zimbabweans, who were stripped of their citizenship. Today, they don't believe what I'm saying. That is, the Zimbabwe government stripped some Zimbabweans a citizenship. And they are still threatening, if you criticize the government, we will strip you of citizenship. A Zimbabwean being called also a Zimbabwean. Imagine, because our country, you know, that dual citizenship. Kana ukaenda Zimbabwe, you can either be a British or a Zimbabwean. You can be an American and a Zimbabwean. If you go on American, urim Zimbabwean, tora American passport, uenda Zimbabwe. Mano badarisa stay. You were born in Zimbabwe, but you pay for days to stay in that country. Ukaita overstay vanokubata kuvharira, ukudepota kuisa kuAmerica. That means they've stripped you of your citizenship. Zvana dual citizenship vakazviramba izvo. Kunyange zvirimo mutemo legally, a Zimbabwean can be a citizen of another country and being a citizen of Zimbabwe. But most of us guys were stripped of this citizenship. In Ian, I was stripped of my citizenship. And let me not refer to other people. In India, when I was in Zimbabwe and a prison officer, I was told that you are not a Zimbabwean, you are a Malawian. Because one of your parents comes from Malawi. For you to become a Zimbabwe citizen, you need to renounce your Malawi citizenship. Guys, I'm so this is an apartheid regime. I was stripped of my citizenship. In Ripanav, I can even show you my citizenship, a renouncement. What is it? I want to show you, boss. I'll show you guys. What is my bag? I want to show you. Could the Zimbabwe government, regime in Zimbabwe, I want to show you something. I want to show you something. Zimbabwe government, that is, it's an apartheid regime. I know na 𝗕𝗶𝗃𝗶𝗶. It's a similar, that regime is similar to 𝗕𝗶𝗃𝗶𝗶. I was stripped of my citizenship. I was never born in Malawi. I was born and bred in Zimbabwe. I grew up in Zimbabwe. But vakataura vakanditi, you need to renounce Malawi citizenship because one of your parents was a Malawian. My one was a Zimbabwean. Baba, yeah. Let me show you. No evidence. I want to show you these two documents. When I'm saying Zimbabwe is under an apartheid regime, Zimbabweans were stripped of their citizenship, legally becoming citizens of a different country because one of your parents comes from Zambia or comes from Zimbabwe, Malawi, or comes from Mozambique. This is a letter. Murugona, this is Embassy of the Republic of Malawi. This letter is citizenship status. Yakanzi Mr. 𝗕𝗵𝗃𝗶𝗵𝗆 Ikastembwa. This letter came from Malawi Embassy. I went to Malawi Embassy. Ndikavabvunza kuti, hey, am I Malawian? Vakati no. Malawi, if you are outside Malawi for 5 years, you will no longer be a citizen of Malawi. So I had to go to Malawi Embassy to obtain this document. This document reads, this letter serves to inform and advise that 𝗕𝗵𝗃𝗀 ID number put of Prison National Head Office Harare paid renunciation of Malawi citizenship fee under general receipt number. I paid this money on 16th of May 2007. I was born in Zimbabwe in 1973. In 1971. I've never been in Malawi. By that time, I'd never been in Malawi. I didn't know where Malawi is. But I had to pay this renunciation fee, which was signed by the ambassador. Please, so they said, in lieu of Section 4 Citizenship 𝗕𝗵𝗃𝗀𝗃 Malawi laws, Mr. Yuda no longer has any claim to Malawi citizenship and cannot apply for a Malawi passport. His forms have been sent to citizenship authorities in Malawi for processing. Please assist Mr. Yuda as you would assist fellow Zimbabweans. This is my renunciation letter. I was stripped of my Zimbabwean citizenship by this apartheid regime you call ZANU-PF. They gave me this certificate. They gave me this certificate of registration as a citizen of Zimbabwe. So I became a citizen of Zimbabwe on the 9th day of March 2007. This is Zimbabwe for you. When we say this, people think we are lying. That ZANU-PF regime is as good as 𝗕𝗵𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗀's apartheid regime, which strips Zimbabweans of their citizenship. I was stripped of my citizenship. I was born in Zimbabwe and bred in Zimbabwe. I'm a Zimbabwean by birth. I did not naturalize, but I am a Zimbabwean by birth. You see, but they never recognized us as Zimbabweans. They stripped us of Zimbabwe citizenship. So, everything that I'm telling you, I will show you the evidence. This is why I am saying Zimbabwe government, the one that was established by ZANU-PF, is an apartheid regime that stripped Zimbabweans of their citizenship. Black Zimbabweans, for that matter, who were stripped of our citizenship. And they said I was Malawian. I was born in Karoi. I was born Papras, Pamuringai Karoi. but they said you are Malawian. My mother is Zimbabwean. My father came from Malawi. I was born in Zimbabwe, and I was stripped my citizenship by Zimbabwe government. That was my homeland that I have occupied. 𝗕𝗿𝗃𝗀𝗀, 𝗦𝗂𝗿𝗃𝗀. That was my homeland that I had occupied since I was born. My father never took me to Malawi. I had no idea where Malawi is. I can't even speak Malawi language. But I was stripped of my citizenship by Zimbabwe government, which is equal to Rhodesian apartheid regime. So, ukanzwa tichitaura, tinenge tichitaura zvatiri kutaura. If you go to apartheid regime, black South Africans in their country, they were given passes. To go from one place to another, you need a pass. That was similar to Zimbabwe. Under Ian Smith regime, you needed a pass. And it became similar under Zimbabwe government. Hakuna kwawaienda usina chitupa. MuZimbabwe waiti ukangofamba wonzi tione chitupa. Waingosechwa wakamira tione chitupa. Kana usina chitupa icho wotovharirwa. That was similar to Rhodesian government. Rhodesia was better than this apartheid regime yaMugabe yeZanu. Waitosechwa pese pauri kufamba. Ukangofamba ukangotendera pakona bvonzi tione chitupa. Cry, my beloved Zimbabwe. Cry, my beloved Zimbabwe. Ukazvifunga, is this a country that we call Zimbabwe today? If you look at it now, Ugatasa Zimbabwe, our uniformed forces are suffering. They are hardly paid enough to survive. Their children are suffering. The political segregation has worsened. The crime rate in our country is probably as good as South African crime rate. Yakwira. Attacks on whites, yakaitwa nemaZimbabweans. Attacks on blacks, agitated by black government. This has caused even panic in black Zimbabweans themselves, even the whites. Vanhu vachena vakazopesera vatotiza ngeZimbabwe. Today you can count how many white people are there. Unoziva kuti zvino zvikaenda kumalocation kuna mwana wakatokura wasikazivi kuti murungu akaita sei. Asingatozivi kuti murungu. Kumalocation vamwe havachazivi murungu. Because vakatiza varungu. After this government instigated the attack. We thought they were going to attack white people alone. They extended it to attack blacks as well. And they attacked blacks on tribal lines as well, keeping Zimbabwe a separated or an apartheid regime. We thought they were trying to deal with the white monopoly of economy and everything. Instead, they were not doing that. They've introduced their elite monopoly. Today, all the money goes into the elite ZANU-PF people. No money goes to the treasury. Bita akataura akati madiamonds aya anotengeswa every day, ndege dzinofly every day, enda kutreasury hakuna mari. Where's the money going? Mugabe chikachema chikati 15 billion yakaenda ndakatarisa zo. Mukadzi wakakatakura 5 billion iri kuSingapore. Atetabi 𝗕𝗶𝗃𝗀𝗀. Andimon. Our gold mines, which are so vital to the economy of our country, they are now depending on cheap labor yemaZimbabweans. Ukaenda so unoona vanhu vachinon'ona goridhe mumakomo vachitengesa kuFidelity for nothing, whilst these elite ZANU-PF people are profiting from the sweat of these people, from the blood of these people. Same thing applied to my last born, my brother. Just because of me, I'm a Malawian by birth. My husband is a Zimbabwean. they say my daughter must renounce, but vamwe vese havana problem. Mugabe era. Yes, at 𝗕𝗿𝗄𝗏. You see what I mean? But when we tell people now, they think we are exaggerating situations. So I had to show them my own renunciation letter and my citizenship certificate issued in 2007. Andemon. Saka murikura tikutaura this is an apartheid regime. Apana chakambosiyana. Apana chakambosiyana. If you look now at our uniformed forces, they barely earn enough to feed themselves. They barely earn enough to survive. The $250 they get, these are just allowances. It's not a salary. Their salary is less than $20 a month. Msoja. Ano spita boots kudaya achenda pa parade. Cha. Arugora $20 a month. 250 kashona is just allowances. Those allowances can be removed anytime soon. And so the people in power, they've led the country. The country is now broke. And all the civil servants are broke. If any attempt to strike for better wages, those strikes will be violently crushed. That means this apartheid regime in Zimbabwe has removed the rights of people to protest. You are not allowed to protest. So they've created a fragile society. A society that is divided. A society that has tainted our beautiful country. Today, the people, even outside the world, I saw the British government issuing travel warnings to the British people. The characters of people who are in power, like the General 𝗕𝗿𝗃𝗶𝗵𝗲, those are people who have shown potential of killing other Zimbabweans because they want to survive. I don't even know. I think his renunciation letter. So we have got a government that has failed to diffuse the hatred it created between 𝗕𝗿𝗃𝗃𝗀 and 𝗕𝗏𝗃, whites and blacks. We have a government that promotes fear, not to overcome fear, to promote people to overcome fear, but it promotes fear among its people. It doesn't take necessary steps to stop or amend this broken nation. Our country, Zimbabwe, is a broken nation. Our country, Zimbabwe, is like under apartheid regime. So I am not sure, ladies and gentlemen, if you look at the low level of remuneration of our uniformed forces, that will never change under ZANU-PF regime. There is no transparency in whatever ZANU-PF government do. We have got a broken society, a disintegrated society, where 𝗕𝗿𝗃𝗃𝗀s cannot live harmoniously with the white people, with the 𝗕𝗏𝗃 people, where the Karanga and the Zulu can never live harmoniously. A broken state. We are a country without clear direction. We are going nowhere. Nowhere. I've stated to people that if vanamnanga godavari vanhu vane brain vanofunga vanoda Zimbabwe, they should now sit down into a collective negotiations with every political party. Kana mauda election endai mugare pasi nevamwe mutaura kuti election kwete election yekuti mugadi jere aumbhadhare musoja aumbhadhare womuzati chindipa enda kupapasa ballot yozovhota ndakakutarisa. That means you have stripped all the rights. Those people have been stripped all the rights. You are paying them nuts and you are oppressing them. Ndakati vanhu vakapusa ava man, masoja, ma defense forces edu kana kuti ma security forces edu muZimbabwe ayakapusa makarara vakomana. imi muri vanhu vakapusa. Because haungatariro kuti nesimba ramunaro iri unonzi uya undiratidze nechidhara chapera chakufamba nedonzvo kudonzva kuti uya undiratidze kuti uda kuvhotera papo kana nharo ndokumamisa. Come on guys, come on. Ngatisade kujairirwa kusvika that extent. By now 43 years of independence, our uniformed forces must be earning a competitive salary. Musadak region, considering what I've stated here, that we've got a beautiful country with all distinctive 4 seasons. We can utilize our natural resources and our land to make sure we produce. We are not under economic sanctions. Our goods can be exported and imported. So we must make sure that our uniformed forces are earning a decent salary, enough to live. They've got children. They want retirement homes. Takapinda basa redu rafana tichirova ma-obstacle crossing tichijamba ma-helicopters. I've got photos, I've got videos to show you. Tichijamba ma-helicopters tichita sei, tichita zvese zvatoda tichimhanya ma-1632 kilometers a day. Tichinowana dhiriwo rairo vanogara mudirwo, dirwo rarembanje vanogara mudirwo, vakomana vanogara mudirwo, dirwo rarembanje vanogara mudirwo, usatambe navo vanogara mudirwo, dirwo rarembanje vanogara mudirwo, dirwo ravakoma. Even recruitment that time when we entered, when we joined the forces, recruitment was transparent. Waiti kana wafoira wega waipuwa test yekunonyora, wopuwa pepa rako wona waona 0, wotonzi wari eliminate, waenda kwa doctor unoongororwa unzi aiwa maso ako aone, nzeve dzako hadzinzwa, you cannot employ munhu asinganzwe prison, wotobuda kana army wotoenda kumba. Recruitment was transparent. Chakurwadza the salary you are giving our uniformed forces. And our uniformed forces, let's refuse to be used in a ZANU-PF. Because these people, they said they can run a country. They formed a government. So they must pay you a salary that is decent, enough for you to live. Ukaenda ku Zambia ukati uri mugadhijeri vanokutarisa kuti oh, kana una Malawi vanokuseka. Kana South Africa muye unosekwa. Magadhijeri South Africa vanofamba nema-Benz. Vanofamba nema-4x4, ma-4D. Every prison officer can afford a car, a nice house. Iwewe you can't afford even kutenga kana ka stand ke $700. Uchihora $20 a month for you to raise a 27 pagore ukuhora $440. You can hardly earn $500 the whole year. And you know that loyal to who? You're being loyal to a government that has never been loyal to its people. This is what I said when I exposed them, that I was loyal to a government that was not even loyal to me. If they underpay you, if they starve your children, if you can't have properties whilst you are working, you have signed a contract with the government, and that contract does not bring enough money in your pocket to enjoy. Because uripabasa mgadjere mpurisa msoja 24/7 uri pabasa ushandira $20 mwedzi wese, $440 the whole year. What are you doing? Woda kuya utaura ndiri loyal kunani? Uri loyal ndi baba vako, government ndi baba vako, ndi mai vako. You can't be loyal to your parents, not a loyal government iri kuti underpay you. There are no monetary incentives for you to say kuti nasi ndashanda ndahura mari. Muchiruziva retishikura kwaive nesongo yainzi ona nasi Friday payday yenyu, ona vana vanokwata havo kuma next door nekuti kwauyiwa nhekanyama nababa vepo, nekuti kwauyiwa nhekachingwa nababa vepo. Izvo zvinezvi ndeapi baba vari kubva kubasa vakabata kanyama, vakabata kachingwa? Ukabvunza munhu wese ari muHarare mutauni kuti uri kuitei mutauni? Handiri kugwavha. Tine ma-tall buildings, hamuna chirimo, hamusina chirimo, no production, nothing. 43 years of independence. Andiri maona. Saka nyaya ndiri kutaura inorwadza. If you are a soldier, think twice. If you are a prison officer, think twice. Yesterday, I encouraged you guys. Zingwai mabasa aya. Budai pachena. Indaka buda pachena. Kuti hainini changu chimudhara chandoda ichi ndichangirai. Chainzi, kukaroi kwaiwe nevamwe wandaiti maiguru. Vaiti vakapfura pamba pedu vaitaura kuti vachibuku vese ma-DC. Ndikati, tiri ma-DC. So what? Andimona. Ngatidade, because you signing a 20-year contract, guys, that is not a shorter career path. No. That is a career path you have simply chosen. Kuti upenyu hwangu wese kana ndizoita mupfumi, ndaita mupfumi ndiri murumende. Kana ndizoita murombo, chaita murombo ndiri murumende. Patakapinda isusu, there were the highest entry salary. Waiti ukapinda so wainakirwa nepay. Takapinda chihora ma 1,200, 1,300, the least paid government of. Waiti ukaora 1,200 yo, waenda manyore nyore wotenga mbedha, wotenga wardrobe, nepay iyoyo yataiora. Wotenga mapoto, wotenga chikafu, wotenga hembe, yaikwana. Wotosara nechange yekuti unoenda kubasa mwedzi wese uchidya uchiguta. Taiora 1,300. Patakapinda basa, I've got all my pay slips kana vanhu vasina kurasa. Androna. Now, ezvinezvi mari yamuri kuona iri kupuwa ma-top positions vayo. Havana mari yavari kuora madhara vayo. But ndo mari inofanira kupuwa junior officer. Ndakataura ndikati come 2023 August 2023. Ichingonzi yarohwa ZANU-PF. Vanotanga kufanira salary ye least paid musoja mugajere mupurisa anofanira kutangira pa 1,800 to 2,000 US dollars a month. Ndo unofanira kuita basic salary. Kana kuti net salary unofanira kusara wakabata 1,800. Ndo mari unofanira kutakura kuenda nayo kumba. Jojo, zviri seko yanga mfana wangu ari pano. Zviri kufamba here George. Uri sei? Andona. Ndiri kuti nini? Soon after these elections, the incoming government ichange yakutengesa mari zose ayanenge akuya mari ichi yakutreasure. A junior officer apinda basa nhasi anofanira take home 1,800 to 2,000 US dollars. Apinda basa nhasi. Iyo anobvisa $700 anotenga stand kulocation. Obvisa $300 otenga zvidhina kana ucheresa foundation. Next week yo, next month yo, otenga zvidhina nesimende. Paanoshanda mu prison police army aita 4-5 months anenge atovaka imba apedza. Ngavaore salary inokwana. This is what I'm advocating. Kana muchidzingwa basa unzi muri opposition edzingwa ibasa muchidimanda salary inokwana. Kwete kuhora mari kuti unosvika 20 years. Ezvinezvi vanhu vese vari papension. Kana kuti anokwira bhazi kunotora pension yacho, how much are you going to collect from the bank? Ndakarwadziwa inini 2008 yaimabhera checks yai. Waiti ukaora nhasi mari, ukarega kunotora inokwana kuti utenge chikafu chanhasi. Paunoenda mangwana kubengi ukangosiya mari yacho kubengi, ukaenda mangwana kunenge kusina mari. I'm telling you a fact. Yokuti waiti payday nhasi wesirwa 8 billion. If you don't go to the bank today, kunotora mari kuti utenge chikafu chanhasi, mangwana paunoenda 8 billion yo inenge sichatenge chinhu. Hausina mari. Mwedzi unosara wopera usina chinhu. Ndaiseka baba munini wangu, ndina baba munini wangu ari munomu, achatauri zita. Vaishanda kuMinistry of Health kuZimbabwe. Ndara achiuya kuno kuUK kudhara. Ndakasiya muaccount mangu muri kuma 300,000 shepherd dollars. Yanga iri mari iyoyo. Iri mari, yanga iri mari yekuti vaitenga kana imba kuBorodale. But pavakauya kuno kwakasiya, ndikati pamakazodzoka mudhara, chikanzi manga musina kana sendi. Mari yandakasiya yakango yakapera iri kubheke pera. Asi kuti withdraw yacha withdraw 300 something yen. Kwane mabillions. 8 billion. Saka ukasvika kubhengi ndakasiya 340,000 yangu 1998 vanokuseka kuti iwe unorwara here. Mudhara ndakati ko mudhara mamusikaona zviri kuchinja here madi kuti shepherd bank card iro idla mari. Unoziva saka vanoseka nhamo serugare. 2008 waiti ukaora 8 billion. Boss pandakabva kuZimbabwe nini I was earning 149 billion. Ndio ndaiora. Saka wakati ndotora 140 billion nhasi ndosaya 9 billion. Mangwana paunouya 9 billion ninge siyatinge sweet. Kombi iyo achatauri zvinhu zvatakaona 2008 anga ari mashura. Zimbabwe kuita mashura. Zviri nani ndiite bachura. Bachura. Nyika yedu yeZimbabwe. Apa ndopanoenda paparedi uchimba nyika yedu yeZimbabwe ndiyo yatakazvarirwa vana mai nababa ndiko kwavari tinoda Zimbabwe neupfumi wayo wese simuka Zimbabwe tinoda nyika yeZimba remabwe. Akomana. Zvakaoma. Saka problem yandiri kutaura guys, varume vari kumauto ndimo vandiri kunyanya taura nezvenyu nhasi kuti tasvika nguva iyazve yekuti mungatsvedza kuzvisunungura apa. You've got 5 more years. Now kana wanga wane 15 years muservice, 5 more years, 20 years dzakwana basa rapera. By 2028 unenge uchibuda basa. Unenge usina kana boots yekupfeka. Vana vako vanenge vane matundundu akaita setara. Vanofa vasina kudzidza. Ivo vana vemadhara vachingo smagula gold. Vasimagula gold. Voenda havo nodzisa vanavo. Vanavo vari muno muUK muno. Vari muno vanavo. Vari kudzidza muno. Mauniversity anodhura. Pa university yandakadzidza inini yandakapedza degree yandakapedza randiri kugraduate next 2 weeks. Inini ndaibhadhara 10,000 9,800. Hanzi kune vanga vasina kuona 2008 vanga vaitirwa nyasha zvekare nezano zvinenge zvakuda kutanga. Yama 2000 vafana vavana kuiona. Vakuiona manje. Yakatotanga hapo because sasa dollar raenda hatichabatiki. Saka tasvika kwamvura yacheka makumbo magorogodo baba. Thanks 𝗕𝗿𝗵𝗃𝗶𝗃. Thank you so much. The degree ndakapedza muna February. I'm graduating in about 2-3 weeks to come. I'll be graduating. Munongoona nemapicture kuti apenya futi. Saka ndikaudza vanhu kuti degree rechi4 vanhu vanda rimwe rere harisi degree. Saka I'm not to say vachiti certificate in professional graduate PGC haisi degree. Because my degree ane ma levels. Level 6 years is equivalent to an undergraduate degree. So it's either if you want to choose to be an undergraduate or you choose to do something else, then come with a certificate to top up your subjects over white a teacher. So level 6 is equivalent to a degree. Level 7 is equivalent to a master's. Level 8 is equivalent to a doctorate. Because level 8 yacho auite usina zvimwe zvaunazvo. Kana level 6 yacho yoyo kana uda kuita a PGCE unofanira kuva nema qualifications aunawo to top up kuti uite PGCE. Kana usina you can't go straight to do it. Saka inenge ichiclassify as level 6 riri degree. Rimwe rogona kuva certificate but riri level 5. That is not equivalent to a degree. Saka inini kana ndichitaura ndakabhodisana naro nevamwe vanhu panapa ndikaona kuti vanenge vasinga understand education system yemuuk ndakaita 15 subjects 15 modules ndakaita ndichita Bachelor of Science Applied Science and Forensic Investigation. Ndikazoita masters ndakaita about 8 modules masters. Ndikazoita PGCE ndikaita about 8 modules. Saka ndikada kuwedzera modules andakaita kuti ndakaita 15 modules ndikaita 8 dze PGCE, you find ndakaita kuma 23 modules. Saka ndikati ndikaenda kunoita Bachelor of Arts kana kuti ndikaita a degree in education ndoita 15 modules chete and ite 23 modules. Saka you find kuti munhu anenge ane PGCE anenge akaita more modules than munhu akaita BS kana kuti Bachelor of Arts kana kuti a degree in education. Those zvinozopa kuti ndive a professional teacher plus ndinenge ndakaema ndakaspecialize on subject randinoda. Inini when I went to university kuno choose a subject of speciality ndakandoda kuticha maths. Saka I specialize in teaching maths. I can teach chemistry, I can teach physics, I can teach chemistry, physics, maths, biology. I can teach all those subjects, but my specialty is mathematics. Anyway, there is no need of explaining this because Saka on the 19th of July I'll be graduating with a 4th degree. Randakapedza recently. Saka you find nyaya dzatikutaura kuti izvozvo zvinhu zvokuti unomira pachita chevanhu uchitaura hazvinyadzisi nokuti wakaenda kuchikoro 3 years wakagara padesk uchidzidza. Anoda kuzviita anongoita izvi. No encourage maZimbabweans. I always encourage Zimbabweans. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go kuchikoro tidzidze. Ndo mukana watinawo. Ukanzwa munhu ati achiti chivhayo haana degree asi ane 580 million yaari kupuwa nezesa. Chiconsider iwewe kuti hauna degree une 580 million yacho here. Mudzimu mumwe aurarirwe panze. Kana chivhayo woenda kuchikuru maximum uende naye. Iwe unosara panze. Iwe usachiva kuba. Uchifunga kuti kuba upfumi. Kuna mwana unoita genuine upfumi. Vakaita sana Zuckerberg akagadzira Facebook yatikushandisa. Ari kurova mari neFacebook. Andona. Kusi kuba ndo vanhu vamoti vamungatochiva kuti vane mari ende ane degree. Pane mumwe munhu akambonditi anzi Bill Gates haana degree ndikati baba musade kunyepa iyo. Saka ignorance sometimes inotikwadza. Tinongozotaurawo sevanhu vari kuda kutaura. But nyaya ndiri kutaura kumasoja nemagajeri nemapurisa. Musaurawa neignorance. Ignorance isakupondai. If you don't free yourselves, hakuna munhu achauya achikununurai. Imimi ndiri muri kushandiswa neapartheid regime noti inoona kuti imimi brain dzenyu ishoma. Muri vanhu vekuti ukabvunzi jambu, you don't ask why. Hai. Ndosaka chinzi Mugabe akataura kati masoja magrade 7. How much do you want me to pay them? And muruva maprova zvechokwadi kuti muri magrade 7. Mugabe akataura I can't pay them $3,000 a month. Haana kana grade 7. Ko munhu ane PhD ndozomubhadhira mari. Saka I pay them accordingly. Imi mobva magara manje on your laurels uchigarira 200 RTGS pamwedzi. Vana vako unoda kuenda kuchikoro, unofanira mwana asina kuenda kuuniversity. Unofanira mwana asina kudzidza. Tichikura isu zvakati pashungudze kudzidza, ndofunga tichikura tichienda kuchikoro isusu. Vanhu vezera rangu. Taiti kana tasvika paassembly, taiimbiswa kuti hande kuchikoro, kana warambidzwa, unofa wakadaro, usina kudzidza, mabvudzi sengundu, dundundu setara, unofa wakadaro, usina kudzidza. Taizviimbiswa grade 1, grade 2. Tara sere. Dara kuma 1981 ikoko ndozvataiimbiswa. Saka iwewe ukaramba kusunungura nyika yeZimbabwe kana kuzvisunungura uri musoja mugajeri mupurisa, don't expect miracles. There is no manner. Mwari vakawandirwa stereke and mwari havana nhomba nevanhu. Kufunga kuti mwari vachazo yavachikununura iwewe usikade kupfunga hazvishande zviya. Bozi mwari ane 7 billion people vanda kununura every day. Vamwe vandoende hondo, vamwe vatu vasati varidza pfuto tenga vana matatu mwari hemutusunungura asada kuridza pfuti. Saka let's be serious about our lives. I'm basing this presentation on facts, not on my opinion. We are supporting corrupt criminals. People who are on government today, who introduced an apartheid government. These are corrupt criminals. Vanhu vekuti kana ukafunga kuti ungatungamirwa nemunhu akadaro, vamwe vandoranzi uri kutaura bhozi uri overseas. No. I've said this time and again, even when I was in Zimbabwe, that we have got a criminal government, a government run by criminals. Saka iwo vhundutsirwa oramba muchingosapota macriminals, muchajamuka gore ripi. Right now, your right to vote has been removed. Uri kunzi wewe uya unyorese kuti uchavhotera papi tokupa ballot uya uvhota in front of us. Your right to vote, your right to elect, your right to elect your future leadership of your country has been removed. You have got no right. Uri musoja uri mupurisa. Wapedza apo bvanzi vanhu kuti toda marights obvanzi opfuti. Munhu ari kurwira kuti ugute. Endai munopfura. Endai munorova. You need to reason, guys. You are sent to go and attack the people who are demanding for betterment of your life. And so we must take steps now. We must stop the rot. We must stop these criminal elements from abusing you. You are being abused. Because you are being abused. You are being abused. Total abuse. That means you never receive a proper training. You would be a soldier. You know your worth as a soldier. You must know your worth as a prison officer or police officer. And because you are authority in a country, you must never be used to punish innocent people. No. You must be working hand in hand with these people than attacking them. That if we learn that we are building a clean Zimbabwe where there is no corruption, let's allow free and fair elections to go ahead. Let's stop this rigging. Because you are helping rigging. And when you help rigging by allowing yourself to be given a poster of ballot paper and one's voter in front of me, that means you're an accomplice in rigging. And one. Voting system yedu, patakaenda kuhondo, we did not demand that type of voting system. And where is that voting system coming from? Ipapo, mnakagwara bvambiro tukuona nyika inosetungwa nezanu-PF, mukaupika doro, bozi vari kushandisa iwewe. Iwe wacho ndori kuudzwa kunzi you are stupid, iwe tichatonga kusvika wafa and hauhore salary. Mukaubike doro wana takupa salary inokwana. Because these guys, they have established fear in your mind, and you are now very weak. You cannot stand for yourself. You are only seen as heroes when you attack innocent civilians of a country. Andimon. Saka varume, amuna zvamuri kuita. Amuna kwamuri kufa muchiinda. Ukaona uri mugajeri mupurisa musoja wabvuma izvi zviri kutaurwa naMnangagwa izvi, that means kana kudenga haupindi. Haupindi. Pamwe ndiri ngirozi, ndine ndakamira padoo ndokubvunza. Ndiwo wakasaina pa buda ibva uende. Ndogena. Gena. Gena. Inini ndikana ngirozi ndokanda kugena. Kanda kugena straight. Ndokanda kugena. Mwari wando, I think mwari wando ziva kuti ndisaitwa ngirozi nditwe munhu. Dai ndakatwa ngirozi. Mbombera zhinji yezanu kugena. Wana Amos midzi vese vangada vari mugena neni. Andona, but mwari vanofunga amene vakazviona sei kuti ingaite ngirozi. Because unoona munhu anodaidzwa kunzi uya ufile fomu rekuti uvote pamberi pedu. Iwe wotoenda uchiyemwerera uchisekerera ndauya shefu. sorita nzara andimona. Saka guys, inini ndofunga nhasi ndataurisa ndirambozorora mbichana I'm feeling kuda kurara. Saka gai ndimbono alright, yeah, injini. Saka zvanhasi tosangana mangwana naye tichitaura kuti takunovhota. We've got a few weeks to go, and my uniformed forces ndimo vandiri kutageta kuti muzive pekuvhotera. Mukanzwai muti rambai, your right is your secret is your vote is your secret. No one should know ndiri kuvhoterana. Kana uchinzi tokudzinga basa notowaramba, ita zvakanakai, because there is nowhere they are going to dismiss 10,000 prison officers, 50,000 police officers. There is no way they are going to do that. Saka 50,000 mapurisa akajamuka vachavadismisa sei? Vandoziva kuti kwakutoye tatodena mako. Saka jamukai vakomana. Dhiriho raremba nje, vanogara mudhiriho. Vakomana vanogara mudhiriho. Dhiriho raremba nje, vanogara mudhiriho. Usatambe navo, vanogara mudhiriho. Dhiriho raremba nje, vanogara mudhiriho. Dhiriho ravakoma. Good night. Musangana nini 𝗕ጳ𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 ndolo yuda naye atosangana mangwana. Good night.